Following that big breaking story here within the past hour, the U.S. Supreme Court has decided to overturn Roe v. Wade in a 5-4 vote. We've been getting a lot of reaction, lots of new details coming in. We've been getting local reaction as well as new statements coming in, even from the justices themselves.
Right, and we know this is a major nationwide change that will be happening where now the rights to an abortion will be left up to the state. So that's important to point out here. 50 years Roe v. Wade has been in place, and that just got overturned within the past 45 minutes. And so people have been outside of the White House in D.C. Here locally, we've seen so many protests, people on all sides of this issue. Really, emotions run high when it comes to abortion, pro-life, pro-choice, all of that now unfolding before our eyes. I mean, you see this right here. This, I believe, is outside at the White House where so many people have gathered for a couple days. Excuse me, this is the Supreme Court right outside there because we expected this to happen. There was that leaked draft opinion where we thought this could be their decision, but of course we weren't certain until just moments ago when all of this came down.
Okay, and many of you are wondering, okay, what does this mean for us here in California? Well, we've been telling you all morning long that California lawmakers here have been working to strengthen our status as a sanctuary state. So what does that mean for the people in these states that can no longer get an abortion? Well, they may be coming here. So they're working on this bill that would protect abortion providers and patients from legal action that may be launched in those states that no longer allow abortion. So this is the look at the Supreme Court. We've seen this crowd grow substantially over the past hour or so. So this is the graphic, the map with the states that have trigger laws. So as of today, with this ruling, abortion is no longer allowed in these states, and that's why we brought up what could happen here in California. Other states, the white states in this that allow abortion, are potentially getting ready for people in these states to make their way to a state that will allow this to happen.
And we could potentially have even more states than that, because there are states that have what are called kind of pre-Roe bans. So essentially, 1973, Roe v. Wade goes into place. By the way, you're looking at the 5 justices right there who went with the majority opinion. But those states that have pre-Roe bans, they never took those abortion laws off the books after Roe v. Wade was decided. So those laws conceivably would go back into effect, even though they haven't been in effect since about 1973. And
I want to real quick, before we get to a legal expert to weigh in on all this, I want to release the statement that Justice Samuel Alito gave on this. He said, quote, "Roe was egregiously wrong from the start. Its reasoning was exceptionally weak, and the decision has had damaging consequences. It is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives." So that's from Justice Samuel Alito releasing that statement.
Okay. And we do have a legal expert. So here's Jen Ronis joining us this morning. This is such a landmark case. I mean, this will have sweeping implications. Jen, thank you for being with us this morning.
My pleasure.
Yeah, so first, give us your first reaction. You know, now hearing this news, did it surprise you, or was this what you expected to happen?
Well, fortunately, we all had a preview of it in that leaked memorandum that had gone out several weeks ago. So regardless of how you film the issue, I don't think anybody ought to really be surprised as to this decision, because it was widely anticipated. There's certainly a legal aspect to it and a political aspect to it, and those are going to play themselves out in the years ahead and certainly the next days ahead with respect to the political fallout.
What has changed, though, is the numbers a bit. In the draft opinion, it was a 6-3, and now it appears to be a 5-4 decision, with Kennedy kind of changing his stance on this. What have you learned about that? What would maybe be the reasons behind this becoming a 5-4 vote?
Well, there's an old adage that the justices of the Supreme Court read the newspaper, and it's possible that the newspaper reporting and the press reporting on the the outrage that was expressed by a great majority of the people in this country, or certainly a great number of people in this country, may have changed the minds. I mean, this is a landmark decision in so many fundamental ways that is going to work its way through society in the decades to come. I mean, it's mind-boggling to suggest that changes this will make from state to state, the prosecutions perhaps to abortion providers, a prosecution for people who may come to California to seek an abortion and return to their states where it's illegal. the doctors that may be prescribed that. It's just has far-reaching implications.
And Jan, I don't want to go too off topic here, but there was a independent concurring opinion written by Justice Clarence Thomas, and a lot of people are highlighting here a part in which he essentially says that the court should now reconsider rulings prior, that protect contraception, same-sex relationships, and same-sex marriage. Do you see that potentially happening? I mean, cases would have to get to the Supreme Court, but does anything about this Dobbs ruling here open up the floodgates, so to speak, for other issues?
I believe so, because many of those factors you mentioned, gay marriage, contraceptives, and things of that nature, are based upon the asserted constitutional protection of the right of privacy, which was inherent in the Roe v. Wade decision. And that constitutional protection to the right of privacy may not exist any longer with respect to those issues you mentioned. So it's frightening in its scope, and looking forward, it's going to be open season on many of these protections we've enjoyed in this country.
Yeah, and these are, of course, so many issues that obviously so many people are passionate about, right? And we are seeing right now a lot of people protesting or celebrating in front of the Supreme Court. Likely that'll happen here in San Diego, as we have seen prior to today's overturning of Roe versus Wade. So I know that's a big part of this, Jan. I mean, we do expect to see people coming out from all sides speaking on this. We've already seen that this morning, statements from places like Planned Parenthood saying that they're going to fight for this. Congressional leaders, too, are speaking out about this here locally, like our Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs. So I want to talk to you about that, too. In Congress, what will need to happen for abortion rights to perhaps stay as they've been? Is that even an option now once the Supreme Court makes this decision?
I suspect that Congress may have some power to alter some of this. The fact of the matter is, it was decided on constitutional grounds that there was no right to privacy exception to the Constitution, which would allow for abortions in this country. So there may be workarounds this, but quite frankly, that would be a tough sell in the present Congress, and it might be a tough sell in any Congress in the future. So I think it's going to be left to the states to kind of sort through this, and quite frankly, the majority of states in this union will likely continue to outlaw abortion, and it will be the minority of states that will become sanctuary states and things of that nature for people who are seeking abortions for which it's disallowed in the states in which they reside.
And Jan, for the folks at home that won't be poring over the actual decision, 230 pages, could you explain the legal argument that the Constitution, again, a document written hundreds of years ago, still has to be taken into consideration how it is written? That is obviously how these 5 justices are writing this, that these issues that you just talked about are not covered in the Constitution and therefore cannot be constitutionally protected under, for instance, the 14th Amendment. Could you explain a little bit more about that legal argument itself?
Right, and that was always one of the criticisms of Roe v. Wade, that it should have been founded upon other provisions that may have been present in the Constitution. And they basically selected a constitutional provision which wasn't very clearly spelled out in the Constitution, and that is the constitutional to a right to privacy. We all know that there's a right to bear arms, there's rights against unreasonable police searches, things of that nature, but they're pretty specifically laid out in the Constitution. There was always that criticism that Roe v. Wade was a stretch of a privilege. It was never explicitly laid out in the Constitution, and so that was a criticism. Now, these things could be corrected perhaps legally by Congress. I don't see it happening in the near future or even the far future, but right now it's the law of the land. Nationally, other states can have higher constitutional protections than the federal Constitution allows, and so California is one of them, and so there shouldn't be too many changes in this state.
Jan, just about 30 seconds left, but I just wanted to get your thoughts. The chances of the governor signing this sanctuary state proposal into law here?
In this state, probably 100%. That's the way I see it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been on the governor's desk, it seems like, and now with this decision. We will wait to see what the governor does. Jan Ronas, thank you very much. I know it was short notice to get you on our air, and we really appreciate your time.
Thanks for your insight. Really appreciate it.